Today we learn about Maryland.
One of the original 14 states. The Old Line State. The Terrapin State. Fear the turtle, folks. The birthplace of David Hasselhoff. That guy's a legend. Let's get to it, folks! You can't talk about awesome places in Maryland without mentioning Baltimore.
Baltimore is known for its Inner Harbor. It's a big, beautiful waterfront area with lots of shops, restaurants, and attractions. You can take a ride on the water taxi or a pirate ship, visit the National Aquarium to see all kinds of sea creatures, or check out the Maryland Science Center to learn about science in a fun way. But that's not all. Baltimore is also home to some really awesome places.
The Maryland Zoo is a great place to see animals, like lions and tigers and penguins up close. I actually met some penguins there.
And if you're into sports, you can catch a game at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles.
Did you know the Star Spangled Banner was made in Baltimore? And that's our national anthem.
You can learn all about it at the Fort McHenry National Monument and Historic Shrine. It's a really interesting place where you can see the fort that inspired Francis Scott Key to write the song. Our family recently went there and made a video about it. You should check it out. Another great thing about visiting Baltimore is getting to try some of the delicious food. Baltimore is famous for its crab cakes, which are made with lots of crab meat. You can also try other seafood dishes like shrimp, oysters, and fish. And don't forget to try some burger cookies. They're a special kind of cookie that's only found in Baltimore.
Another great place to visit is Maryland's capital, Annapolis.
Located right on the Chesapeake Bay, it was founded way back in 1649 and has been an important city ever since. One of the most famous things about Annapolis is the United States Naval Academy, which is located right in the heart of the city. This is where the Navy trains its future officers, and it's a really important institution in our country.
It's also home to the Maryland State House.
It is the oldest state capitol in the United States that's still in continuous legislative use.
Maryland is in the mid-Atlantic. That means it's in the middle of the East Coast.
Maryland is bordered by several other states, including Pennsylvania to the north, West Virginia to the west, Virginia to the south, and Delaware to the east.
People always forget about Delaware. Always!
It's also home to the Chesapeake Bay, which is the largest estuary in the United States. The Chesapeake Bay is an important part of Maryland's geography and culture, and we will explore it later in the episode.
Maryland has lots of different landscapes, which means there's all sorts of things to do.
In western Maryland, you can go hiking in the mountains or go skiing in the winter. In the central part of the state, you can visit the state capital, Annapolis, and learn about Maryland's history.
And on the eastern shore, you can go to the beach and enjoy the sand and sun.
Maryland is also home to lots of great universities and research institutions. Some of the most famous universities in Maryland include Johns Hopkins University and the University of Maryland.
Maryland has a diverse economy, which means people do a lot of different things.
Some of the biggest industries in Maryland include aerospace and defense, biotechnology and life sciences, manufacturing, and tourism.
Aerospace and defense companies make airplanes, spacecrafts, and other things that fly through the air.
These companies also make things to help protect our country, like weapons and communication systems. Many of these companies have offices or factories in Maryland, which means lots of people work there.
Biotechnology is also important in Maryland.
Companies in this industry make medicines, vaccines, and other medical treatments that help people stay healthy. They also do research to find new ways to treat diseases and improve health.
Manufacturing is another big industry.
People who work in manufacturing make things like cars, furniture, and electronics. They use machines and tools to create these products, and then they are shipped all around the world.
Maryland was founded by a man named Lord Baltimore in 1634.
He was granted a charter by the King of England to establish a colony north of Virginia. Lord Baltimore made it a safe place to move to for Catholics and chose the Chesapeake Bay area for his colony.
He named it Maryland after the Queen of England, Henrietta Maria.
One of the most important events in Maryland's early history was the signing of the Act of Religious Toleration in 1649. This law guaranteed religious freedom to all who lived in Maryland, regardless of their religion. This was a groundbreaking law, as religious freedom was not yet a widely accepted concept in the world.
The Battle of Antietam was the deadliest one-day battle in American history.
Fought near Sharpsburg, it was an important turning point in the Civil War. It was the first major battle fought on Union soil, and it gave President Abraham Lincoln the confidence to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all slaves in the Confederate States were to be freed.
Harriet Tubman ran away from slavery and the eastern shore of Maryland in 1849.
Though she was not the only person to run away, she was one of the few to go back to save others. A person who we have explored on this channel many times, Tubman was the most famous conductor of the Underground Railroad and came back to the South around 13 times to help others run to freedom.
There's a great visitor center in Byway in Maryland for Harriet Tubman. You can get a map and follow her journey.
Like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass was born into slavery on the eastern shore of Maryland, but he escaped to freedom when he was just 20 years old. He then became a powerful speaker and writer, using his experiences as a slave to advocate for the abolition of slavery and the rights of African Americans. In 1845, Douglass wrote an autobiography called Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, which became a bestseller and helped to spread his message of freedom and equality.
Throughout his life, Douglass worked tirelessly to fight slavery and discrimination. He even met with President Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War to discuss issues facing African Americans.
Thurgood Marshall was the first African American Supreme Court Justice in the United States. He was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and grew up during a time when there was a lot of discrimination against African Americans. But he did not let that stop him from becoming a lawyer and fighting for justice.
In 1954, Marshall was the lead lawyer in the landmark case Brown v. Board of Education. This case ended racial segregation in schools and was a huge victory for civil rights.
Of all the athletes in the world, the person with the most Olympic medals of all time is Maryland native Michael Phelps, who won 28 medals over 4 Olympics, 23 of which were gold. Phelps retired from swimming after the 2016 Olympics, but his legacy as one of the greatest athletes of all time lives on.
Smith Island is a small island in the Chesapeake Bay, and it's home to a really cool culture.
First of all, Smith Islanders have a very special way of talking that's different from the English that you might hear in other parts of the country. It's called Smith Island English, and it's a mix of different words and phrases that have been passed down from generation to generation on the island.
Another important part of Smith Island culture is the tradition of being a watermelon. Watermen.
This means that many people who live on Smith Island work as fishermen, crabbers, and oystermen. They spend a lot of time on the water catching seafood that they can sell or eat themselves.
Finally, Smith Islanders are very friendly to visitors.
Even though they live on a small island that can be hard to get to, they love meeting new people and showing them their way of life. They have a really strong sense of community and are always willing to help each other out.
Around 70% of the land that is Washington, D.C. used to be a part of Maryland.
Back in the 1700s, the United States didn't have a capital city yet. The government was based in Philadelphia, but there was a lot of debate about where the permanent capital should be located. Finally, it was decided that the capital should be located somewhere along the Potomac River between Maryland and Virginia.
Maryland agreed to give up some of its land for the new capital city. In exchange, the government promised to pay off some of Maryland's debts and gave Maryland some of the new city's profits.
A man named Pierre L'Enfant was hired to design the new city. He came up with a plan that included wide streets, some big public buildings, and plenty of parks and green spaces. The new city was named after the first president of the United States, George Washington.
Maryland surrounds the Chesapeake Bay.
The Chesapeake Bay is an estuary, which means it's a place where fresh water from rivers and salt water from ocean mix together. This mixture of fresh water and salt water creates a unique habitat and is home to many different kinds of plants and animals.
One of the most famous animals that live in the Chesapeake Bay is the blue crab.
Blue crabs are a type of crustacean, which means that they have a hard outer shell and jointed legs. They are called blue crabs because of the blue color on their legs and claws. Blue crabs are important to the Chesapeake Bay because they're both a source of food and a part of the ecosystem. They eat smaller animals like clams and snails, which helps keep the bay's ecosystem in balance. When eating crabs, Marylanders are known to eat them with Old Bay seasoning, a mix of celery salt, red and black pepper, and paprika. The National Aquarium has been around since 1981, and it's one of the biggest and most famous aquariums in the United States. It's home to over 20,000 animals, including fish, sharks, dolphins, turtles, and even birds.
One of the coolest things about the National Aquarium is not just a place to look at animals. You can also learn about them.
The aquarium has lots of exhibits that teach you about the different animals, where they live, and how they survive in the ocean. And finally, Maryland has many wonderful places to visit. Here, we are highlighting a few that have not already been mentioned.
Ocean City is a beautiful town. It's very famous for its sandy beaches, boardwalk, and amusement parks.
It's a perfect destination for families who are looking for a fun-filled vacation. Ocean City is home to several amusement parks, including Jolly Roger Amusement Park and Trimper's Rides. You can also spend your days playing in the sand or walking along its iconic, almost 3-mile-long boardwalk.
About 8 million people visit Ocean City every year.
Near Ocean City is Assateague Island, a barrier island off the coast of Maryland that is known for its wild ponies, sandy beaches, and beautiful nature.
The wild ponies of Assateague Island is one of the island's most famous features.
These ponies have roamed the island for hundreds of years and are a beloved symbol of Assateague.
Assateague Island is also a popular place for camping.
You can set up your tent right on the beach and fall asleep to the sound of waves crashing on the shore.
Maryland is an amazing place. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. My best line ever. Birthplace of David Hufflepuff. Did I just say Hufflepuff?